First off, I'd like to welcome everybody. Glad to see my guys are here and on time, so that's good. You'll get a chance to talk to them here in a little bit. But thanks for the media for coming out today, and you guys have always been tremendous supporters of the wrestling program, so that's really a big thing. And the more support and the more exposure we get is great for our fan base. It's great for our recruiting. It's great for our guys. It makes wrestling a household name. That's what we started planning to do 16 years ago. I think we're doing a pretty good job of it, and a lot of that is because of all of your coverage. So thanks for being here. Brad, thanks again for putting this together. Our sport administrators are not here right now, but Nicole Netchi, Ryan Passari, thank them. Ton of support with the change. Those two coming on, helping us out, get ready for our season. Always greatly appreciated. A couple of quick hitters. Clarion match. Now season tickets are open to the public. I think that's pretty important to let our fan base, people at home who are going to watch this, know that's open. Season ticket holders have had an opportunity to get their tickets, so hopefully they pick those up. And now it's open to the public. So Friday, as we know, it's a small gymnasium, College Ave gymnasium, back where it all started. So get on those tickets right away. I probably won't be able to help you much starting next week. So get those tickets right away. And we'll, I think the last time we were at the barn was 2016. We wrestled Ohio State, #1 Ohio State on Super Bowl Sunday. So we're excited to get back there. Season tickets as of this morning, we're at 2,000 plus, which is down from years past where we were at 3,000. And I'm sure I'll get the question, but it's probably because we only have 5 home duels, 4 at Jersey Mike's Arena. So obviously we'll probably talk about that a little bit. Excited for the season. Real quick, let me just. Super excited for the season. Obviously, I'm always excited for the season, right? It's the beginning of the year. Everybody's pumped up. We had a really good summer session. We had a really good fall. Preseason's been awesome. A lot of guys have been in the room over the course of the last 5 or 6 months, getting better. We've had a bunch of guys not come in the room at all for whatever reasons, to get super healthy, try to get super healthy, maybe just take some time off away from the mat, and now they're rejuvenated for the season. So there's been a lot of dialogue with our student athletes on which ways we should go with that, and I think we did a really good job of getting our guys back and inspired and excited to compete and wrestle. So you're going to hear from our guys. I'm sure they'll say the same, but of course I'm excited. There's a lot to be excited about. You go in that practice room, and hopefully you guys can hang around today, watch a little bit of our practice, and just see the excitement and see the energy in there. And it's a lot of fun. It's fun to come to work. Injuries from a team standpoint, for the most part, we're really healthy. There's a couple guys obviously coming off, Turley's coming off of surgery, Janzer's coming off of surgery. Those guys will monitor. But for the most part today, where if we had to wrestle a duel, you'd probably get everybody would be ready to go. So we have another week, so we'll try to get everybody about as healthy as possible. And, there's been little nicks, bruises, guys have been banged up, and we've done a little bit of different training with some guys. So a lot of that goes into it, but I think by Friday it will be full lineup ready to go. First semester schedule, a little bit disappointed. We got rid of our quad, a little bit disappointed. We're not down in Jacksonville wrestling in those Badger duels. That would have been a really cool trip. We'll get on that, but Coach Bono bailed on us for this year, but we'll get back hopefully next year and try to start our season every year down there, because that's a pretty cool event they have going, and brings more wrestling to Florida, and that's something that I know he's into, and we'd like to get involved in those duels. But we'll start at the Princeton Open. There'll be 20 of our guys competing this weekend. Most of them will be unattached. We'll have 5 or 6 freshmen wrestling attached using as you guys know, there's a new rule where you're allowed to use 5 dates before your red shirt. They'll be able to do that. And we'll start with paying for those 6 freshmen. They'll wrestle attached this weekend with a block R on their chest. So we're excited about that. And then we have obviously, we talked about the Clarion duel. We will go out to Stanford, or I'm sorry, I think it's the 13th. We get Sacred Heart, then Arizona State, number 3 Arizona State. The following weekend, we go out to Stanford, which will combine that dual meet with Stanford and a tournament. There'll be another open tournament out in Bakersfield where some of our guys will be out there unattached. They'll fly themselves out, to compete. And as you could see, there's a bunch of open tournaments going on. It's going to dictate our lineup. So we'll use this first semester to dictate our lineup, and then and we'll probably do that all the way through Midlands. In December, we have the match at the Prudential Center with Penn and Drexel, which is a big duel, and then we end with December 11th. We have Princeton at Princeton's Jadwin Gym. So that's our first 2 months, our first semester. Throw in the Midlands tournament. That is how we will solidify our lineup. We'll use a lot of that. I'm sure the question will come up, no wrestle-offs. That's true. We did not have wrestle-offs this year. We had indicator matches. So we have a really good idea of the lineup based on those matches. But we all know a lot different when the lights come on. So here's how I'll end it, and I'll open up the questions. This is a team, 10 weight classes, 10 question marks. And that's kind of the theme right now. Every single weight has a question mark to it. Now, some of them are very good questions. Some of them are very good problems. I think we have a lot of talent. I think it's a lineup that is extremely balanced. I think we are a very good dual meet team right now. But there's question marks, whether it's a kid coming home for his 6th year or his 5th year. That's different. And now from the ACC to the Big Ten, that's different. Whether it's a highly regarded redshirt freshman who's going to enter the lineup for the first time, that's a question, right? What happens at 125? We have 2 very talented kids who can win a lot of matches. That's a question. What are we going to do at 84? There's a question mark. So I think you go up and down our lineup, 65 and 57, those guys are moving down a weight. Those are question marks. Boo McDermott, our heavyweight, went from 227 at the Big Ten tournament to now weighing 261.8 this morning. It's a question mark. How does he handle that weight? So those are good. I'm not saying they're bad, but who knows what's going to happen, right? 2 guys coming off surgery we talked about. So that's kind of the theme. Feel really good about my team, obviously. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you we're the number 1 team in the country right now. We have a lot of work to do, but I think it's also a team with an extreme amount of balance, a ton of potential, fun to watch, good group. It's going to be a fun season. Again, love to come to work every day. It's the most fun I've had in a long, long time being around these guys, and you'll get a chance to see that. So with that, I open it up to you guys, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we'll use the mic. Lex.
Coach, would you,
Is this on, Brad?
good. Coach, would you say this is the deepest team you've had depth-wise, and is it the hardest time you've had figuring out your lineup, given the fact you have a very good 125-pounder returning, but also a very good kid on his tails that could take that spot? And that goes for several other weight classes as well, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. There's a lot of – everybody says we have all this depth, and we always talk about it every year. I've sat at this podium and talked about how much depth we have. But in reality, are you going to be able to keep all that depth happy, healthy, and when it's their time to go, are they going to be able to get on the mat? Usually when a guy, when you figure out a lineup, and probably the reason we didn't do wrestle-offs, right? When you figure out your lineup and the guy's not the guy, they're not making weight anymore. They're done making weight. Why would I make weight when this guy's the starter? So, those are some of the things we've talked about. And then with all the depth, right? Like, for example, 184 pounds. We have 2 of the best kids in the country, I think. But one can redshirt, one can wrestle. So if one redshirts, well, you don't have that guy. So now how much depth do you really have, right? So we talk about this as a staff all the time. You got to be able to have, especially in this conference, 2 or 3 guys at a weight that are really able to go, right? You got to keep their feet to the fire, and they got to be ready to go at any given time, because you never know when their number is going to be called, so to speak. So I do believe we have depth. I think of some of the weights in the middle. There's a lot of guys that'll, 57 and 65. There's a lot of guys in there that can wrestle for sure, but we got to make sure they're prepared at any given moment. If there's an injury, if there's a sickness, if there's a skin issue, whatever the case might be, or maybe you just need a day's rest, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of depth. Are they going to be able to perform when their number's called consistently over the course of the year? Keeping them hungry and motivated is our challenge. So to answer your question, I don't know if it's the most we've had. There's a lot of depth in the room.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned 184. Obviously, that's an exciting weight class. Yeah. Can you tell me, or just tell us what the plan is at this point?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's a lot of dialogue between Brian and Paz. Obviously, one of them's going to wrestle, and the other one will redshirt at some point. I know we'll use the new rule for freshmen, the 5 dates for Brian, and then see where he's at. So I think you'll see that to start the season. But this is the best John's ever looked. He seems, obviously he's always excited at the beginning of the year, but he seems very motivated right now. He's one of the guys who really didn't come in the room in the summer and did some of his work on his own, which was great. I think, again, that was a lot of dialogue with the staff. So 2 capable guys, one's 4th in the country, right, an All-American, and the other's a true freshman. So we know how that works, especially in this conference. Is this true freshman ready to go for the long haul is something that we have to really, really be smart with. And see how it works out, see how it plays out. At some point, they both need to be in our lineup in the future. We know that, but now we have an opportunity where one can redshirt, one can wrestle, and probably next year, right? One can wrestle, one can redshirt, but who knows the future? We're really worried about this year. So again, a lot of dialogue. I think if John had to go, he'd go. If Brian has to go, he's going to go, and we'll work it out between the 2 guys and of course, our coaching staff.
Coach, there's a lot of hype around Anthony White at 149 off his big redshirt season last year. What are your expectations, and his team's expectations on him for now he's going to be stepping into the lineup?
Yeah, he's a constant professional. He's one of the guys who's been in here all summer. He's one of the guys who spent a lot of time with Sebastian and Ashnault as they prepared for their international competitions. He did have a really good redshirt year. That's a redshirt year. So when I talk about a question mark, that's a redshirt year. It's a lot different than Friday, Sunday, every single weekend. So again, we got to be smart there, but obviously, we think this kid's got an incredible future, but we always talk about this. Do it now. You don't wait till your sophomore, junior, senior year. You do it as a freshman. There's guys winning national titles as freshmen. I'm not up here saying he's ready to win a national title. I just know he's very, very good, and he's a constant professional. He loves this sport. He loves the process. He loves to train. He likes to – I don't know how much he loves the diet, but he's very strict with his weight management. He's real big in the summer, and the whole time, again, a lot of dialogue with the staff where he's going to be at weight-wise, and sure enough, he's at weight-wise. He'll touch down at scratch today or tomorrow and then be prepared for next Friday night. But obviously there's a huge, huge future there and someone who loves it. So it's great to see. It's great to see him work every single day, and I think a lot of our older guys look at him and say, this guy's a worker, so it's good.
Hey, Coach. Like Brad mentioned, you guys were ranked 22nd in the NWCA preseason rankings. On top of that, you're hosting a team with no seniors this year. Just how far this season and maybe next season as well do you see you guys placing not only in the dual format, but come March?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I guess we start 22nd in the country. And to be honest, I'm one of those coaches, I look at the rankings. That means you're doing something right. I want to climb those rankings. I want to climb those polls. It's been a long time since we've picked somebody off, since we've beaten number 3 Virginia Tech, number 3 Nebraska, number 5 Cornell, number 6 Missouri. We've in the past have a ton of wins. I think it's what this group is missing. We need a signature win somewhere to really – otherwise, we're going to hover around 15, 16, 17, 20 until we beat somebody. So there's plenty of opportunities on our schedule. I don't look at our guys being ranked. I mean, obviously I look at it, but whether they're 15 to 25, that doesn't really matter. It matters there's opportunities out there, and you got to beat the good guys, and that translates to your duels and your individual success and moving up the rankings. Yeah, it's important. We got a ways to go. So, again, it's a young team. And some of them aren't ranked because they haven't done it. They haven't been in our lineup yet. And then there's some veterans in there. So I expect us to climb the polls. I could tell you I'm tired of being ranked 14th in the country. We need to get better. And that's something we talked about at our end of the year banquet last year. We're trying to get over the hump. We set out to do something a long time ago. And that's the mission still. That's the vision still. And to be sitting at 12, 14 in the country at the end of the year doesn't sit right with our program and our staff. And that's kind of our mentality every single day. Those are the expectations, not only from us, our staff and our guys, but from our fan base. And good, they're allowed to have expectations, and they should be big. So nothing really changes. Again, there's plenty of talent in there to win big duels and to set yourself up for March and put guys on the podium and have All-Americans and national champs, and that's the way we'll go about it.
How you doing, Coach?
How you?
You talk about, having a signature win. What do you think it takes to get over that hump of beating, the number 2s, number 3s, number 4s?
Yeah, it's. We've been so close. We've been so close with Ohio State, Minnesota. I'm thinking about all those duels. Last couple years, for whatever reason, it's one match short. It's one takedown short. It's just a little bit short in every different situation where I think that's what we need. We need to get over that hump. I think once you start doing it, and this team hasn't done it yet. Our teams in the past, 2016, 17, 18, we did it. We did it, and it was one takedown, winning a big match, getting that crowd behind you at Jersey Mike's Arena, and winning a big match, and all of a sudden a dual meet changes. Then your next week's practice changes. Then your season starts to change, and then everybody's fired up to be in there, and then the results start happening. I think that's what we need. And what is it going to take? It's going to take somebody in that room, someone in this program knocking off a nationally ranked guy, knocking off a returning All-American, beating someone you're not supposed to beat on paper, right? Keeping yourself in a match, in a tight match, and picking somebody off. That's what it takes to win dual meets, and I think that's what I'm most excited for going. Obviously, we're always going to look at the Big Ten tournament and the national tournament. That's our sport. That's the way we're judged. That's our sport. But I get into these matches. They're fun. They're exciting. It's the one thing a crowd can really, really understand is a good dual meet. And I want to win those, and I think it just makes everything better around you. We need to do it. We need to pick some people off and do it.
Hey, Coach, right over here again. Can you speak a little bit about the roster battle at 25 between Peterson and Shawver, how they're looking in the room, and also maybe touch upon the plan on 33 with Heilman and Oliveri?
Yeah, well, I'll start with 33. That's pretty easy. Joey Oliveri will start the year in red shirt. He'll be at 141. He will not be at 133. He didn't even certify for 133. So that's off the record, right? Joey Heilman will start the season as our guy for sure, and there's some guys behind him that will wrestle a little bit, but Joey's the guy there. 125 is interesting. There's two really talented kids. Shawver had a really good year last year. He's beaten some nationally ranked guys. He does it consistently. He's done really well with Patrick McKee from Minnesota. I think starts the year number 4 or 5 in the country, and back-to-back Big Ten tournaments. He's beaten a lot of nationally ranked guys, and he's won at the national tournament. He's placed in the Big Tens, won at the national tournament. He's won matches there, right? So there's some experience there, and again, somebody who really loves wrestling. And then now we have a redshirt freshman who's highly touted coming out of high school and is very, very good right now and super disciplined. Last 2 weekends he's weighed under 125, so this is really important to him. And he didn't start in September. This started in June, so that's kind of where they're at. So we'll let that play out, and again, we'll use this first semester to let that play out, but that's kind of where we're at. And both work ethics have been really good, and you could cut the tension in there with a knife, right? That's a big spot in our team. That's a huge, so we need somebody to produce at that weight, and like they have in the past, and we'll see what happens. And again, we'll use the first semester, play that out.
Hey, Coach, whether it was Ashnell or Sebastian Rivera, maybe even last year, you've always had someone that was kind of the face of the program. Do you have any concern that you don't have one guy right now that's the face of Rutgers Wrestling?
I don't know if that's heck, if you ask some of our guys, they'd probably tell you they're the face of Rutgers Wrestling. But I don't know if, and for some, maybe it's not their personality, right? Maybe it's not. I know everywhere some of these guys go, they're attracted, right? They're attractive to a lot of fans. So, I don't worry about that. I think it's the 1 year where there's so much balance in our lineup. I think that's a good thing. Maybe maybe we don't have to worry about being the face. Maybe we could just worry about going out and wrestling. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. But I could tell you, the fans here and the other athletes on campus, they look at these guys and understand what they go through. They're pretty popular on campus, and they're really good for Rutgers Wrestling, not only on campus, but when they go outside and they do their clinics and they go back to their wrestling clubs. They're huge personalities, and it draws a lot of attention. A lot of recruits see that, and that's good. They do a good job representing themselves in Rutgers Wrestling.
To bring it back to next week, Coach, going back to the College Ave gym,
Yeah.
is that, what went into that decision? Also, is it great? Is it not so great? Obviously it's a different atmosphere compared to the arena next door.
how do I want to handle this one? I'm excited to go back to College Ave. There's a conflict with women's basketball. They play Seton Hall. That's a big deal. New coach, I get it. So we still wanted to have a home duel, and why not go back to College Ave? I think the cool thing is our guys want to go back and wrestle at College Ave. So that's pretty cool, and we'll get to warm up down in the dungeon, go back to we'll use the golfing locker room now, which used to be our locker room. And I know for a fact it'll be sold out, packed, hot, and hopefully we get it like 2016 where the paint chips are falling from the ceiling. That was pretty cool. But, yeah, it's different. We haven't done it in a long time. I think our guys, a lot of what's gone on in our preseason and even leading up to today is a lot of our alum coming back and talking about, the days when we first started here. So that's been pretty cool. Now they're going to understand. We talk a lot about the barn and a lot about the dungeon and being to have to move practices if it was too humid out and all that good stuff, doing 3 or 4 different weight training times and 3 or 4 different mini practices. So that's a pretty cool place. Hopefully the scoreboard's working. That's important to us, and we'll go from there. But, yeah, it'll be cool kind of to go back and wrestle one last time at the barn.
Coach, in years past, Midlands have kind of kicked off the real tough stretch of your schedule, right? You go from Midlands into the Big Ten schedule, and you've always said that's where you find out a lot about your team and what your true lineup is. This year you start off through November and December with 3 tough nationally ranked teams. Was that by design to toughen up the schedule in the front half of the season, or is that just the way it landed?
No, I think we wanted to wrestle these programs. We wanted to wrestle these programs. And I think when you have something really important early, like Arizona State, your training's a little different in September, October, leading up to it. It's really important because there's a huge opportunity with that program, right? So Penn, Princeton, Arizona State, Stanford, Drexel, it's a little bit tougher than what we've done the last couple years, so that's really good. We're excited to see where our guys are at. Again, using this new rule and being able to use a bunch of different guys, a really touted freshman class, that'll help for sure. But, yeah, a little bit by design. I think more importantly is you could always schedule in November and December because we know we're not going to have Big Ten duels. The reason we only have 5 home duels is because we don't get the Big Ten schedule till the middle of September. So I could lock down November and December, and that's why we wanted to make it tough. And then I just don't have dates until middle of September, and teams weren't willing to hold on and save a date for us when we don't, we weren't able to give them one. So, yeah, I could always do, November, December, kind of put some really good teams there. And then the one thing this year that's going to be totally different is we'll have 3 weeks off before the Big Tens. So we're not going to wrestle that last week of the season. So, yeah, I think just going off that a little bit scheduling-wise, I think in the future what we need to do is separate Princeton and Rider, and kind of one should be home, one should be away every single year, and that'll guarantee us having at least 6 or 7 home matches.
Hey, Coach. Can you talk about how the guys are responding to having Coach Buxton in the room, as well as the open coaching spot and maybe some potential names that we could see?
Yeah, our RTC is doing really, really well right now. I think Sebastian's done, obviously he's 5th in the world. We sent Sammy over to Spain. Joey Silva's in our RTC. So Jeff's is Coach Buxton is there's a lot of knowledge there. There's a lot of knowledge there. So anytime he gets an opportunity to work with our guys, and we move guys into our RTC so he could put his hands on them and kind of give them his knowledge. So it's great for myself, Donnie Pritzloff, Joe Pollard, Kyle Kiss, and even our new director of wrestling operations, Steve Middich. Coach Buxton has coached us all. He's coached us all. He sat in our corners, which is crazy to think about, right? But he sat in my corner. So I have the utmost respect, obviously, for what he's done at Blair, but now what he's done with Team USA over the last 6 or 7 years. You see the rise in Team USA. And so to see and sit and talk wrestling with Jeff Buxton every single day has been huge, not only for myself, our staff, but our guys. So,
Coach, in the middle of the lineup, you mentioned 2 guys dropping down, Clark to 57, Connor O'Neill to 65. How are those guys adjusting to the new weight and expectations for them, knowing that they're going to be probably more down to their more anticipated weight?
Yeah, that's where they should be. That's where they probably should have been last year, but for certain circumstances they were up. But that's exactly where they belong. This has not been a difficult weight cut for either one of them. That's, maybe 7 pounds they're walking around at in the middle of July over, and that's the way it should be. So they were very undersized last year, and now they're at the weights they should be at. Now, again, 2 question marks. How are they going to do? they're down at the weight they should be, so I think it gives them a better chance. They'll be as strong as guys, and that's important, especially in this conference. So let's see how it plays out. Sammy. You know, Sammy's, again, I'm not going to – you guys know how I feel about his talent level. If his lifestyle meets his talent level, the sky's the limit. And that's the way, if his focus and his training are consistent all the way through. But I think, and we've talked about this with Sammy, so I don't mind saying it to you guys. We're done. He's got to now do it. It can't be for 2 weeks. And I think a lot of that has to do with the weight last year, 133. He's up in weight right now. He's never certified for 133. He's a 141-pounder. So obviously that helps. But it's going to be about what he wants to do with this. Are we going to be consistent with his training? Are we going to be locked in on for the whole year? And then the way I feel about it is he could beat everybody in the country at the weight. If he's locked in and focused, laser beam focused the whole time, he could. If he doesn't do that, and he knows there's somebody waiting in the wings that wants to wrestle really, really bad. Really, really bad. So, and he's very good. So we'll feet to the fire for Sammy. He now has to do it. You have to do it. We got to be done talking about it.
Hey, Coach. What kind of true freshmen do you see taking advantage of the new redshirt rules?
I think all of them. I think at one point or another, you know, I think about 174. Again, a talented kid, probably not ready right now, but he gets time. He gets 5 of them to give our starter a break maybe. So that's important. So he'll wrestle. That's the example I'm giving you off the top of my head. But I think all of them will see time, which is great because when you go into redshirt, it's like, is it a year off? It's not really a year off. You got a competition coming in 3 weeks. You got another one coming in 2 weeks. It's not the same from a mental standpoint. So now you need to be ready every single weekend because you never know when you're going to be thrown in there. So I think every single one of them are going to get those 5 dates to use. That's the smart thing to do, and then we'll go from there.
Coach, given the fact that this is still a fairly young team, you don't have that Sebastian Rivera, Anthony Ashnall type leadership who were 2 pretty vocal guys that led from the front. Who are your leaders this year that are taking charge and rallying the troops with a pretty young squad?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think leadership is something, especially in the last 5-6 years, we've always looked, you know, we've always, like, we really need somebody to be that guy. And some guys are vocal, and that may rub people the wrong way, right? Sebastian was super intense, and some people would be fired up about it, others would be like, all right, not now, you know? So it all depends kind of what you're looking for, right? Anthony really led by example, right? He led by example. He worked real hard. If he had to talk to you, he would. But I think our guys do a good job of holding each other accountable. I think it needs to be better. I think it needs to be better if we're going to do this as a team. It's so weird. We talk about this all the time, right? You throw the word culture around all the time, and the culture changes every year because your personnel changes every year. Your foundation stays the same, but it's such an individual sport, right? It's not football. It's not basketball. It's not lacrosse. It's really about you as an individual, and some guys really, really need to be selfish, and that's the hardest part about trying to lead because they're so locked in on themselves, you know, and so locked in on what they have to do. And if they do what they're supposed to do, it takes care of itself. But that's really been the hardest thing for me is finding that true leader that's going to hold people accountable and say, hey, this is what's right, this is what's wrong, this is the way we do it. Obviously, our team, you know, there's some upperclassmen there, but, you know, I'm looking at Joey Heilman back there. He's locked in on himself, and he's new. He's a newcomer, so he's probably not going to jump all over somebody. This is the way he trains, and it's a professional. You know, he's super professional at what he does. Boone spends a lot of time dealing with the upper weights and our young guys, P.J. Casale and Johnny O'Neill. So there's some good, Johnny O'Donnell. So there's some good leadership there that goes on every single day, and I think Paz has taken a little bit of that role, taking some of the young guys under. But leadership is that's something we're looking for every single day. Once these guys start addressing the team themselves, once they're holding themselves accountable and they get the team driven by what they want to do and not the staff, I've seen what could happen. So that's kind of what we're always looking for. I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks. Hope you get some good stuff from our guys back there. You got a good crew back there. Look forward to hopefully seeing you at practice, but thanks for everything you do. Appreciate you.